Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings and a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th WoCTVET 2022. May I have your attention, please? Our session is about to begin soon. Before we start, I would like to have a few housekeeping to ensure the smoothness of the event. On behalf of the committee members, we would like to seek for everyone's cooperation as per follows. For any queries, you may write it down in the chat box. Yes, you may download the visual program book and given link in the chat box. And also, guests may fill up the registration and attendance form in the middle of the session. Thank you for your cooperation and attention.
Don't dismiss. Oh, you dismiss the top. Don't panic me, okay?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, greetings and good day. Welcome to the 8th WoCTVET 2022. First of all, allow me to extend a warmest welcome to the honorable guest, Professor in Senior Technologies, Dr. Ruzairi bin Abdul Rahim, Vice Chancellor, University Tun Hussein of Malaysia, Professor Technologies, Dr. Abdul Rasid bin Abdul Razak, Dean Faculty of Technical and Vocational Education, UTHM, Associate Professor Technologies, Dr. Mimi Muhafiza binti Muhammad, the Chairman of WoCTVET 2022, Associate Professor Technologies, Dr. Affero bin Ismail, Coordinator UNEVOC Center, Head of Center of Industry UTHM-Labtech Digital Innovation Center, Faculty of Technical and Vocational Education, University Tun Hussein of Malaysia, Technologies Muhammad Fadzil Muhammad Idris, Chief Executive Officer of FIC Integrated Property Management Sdn Bhd, Adjunct Professor of FPTV, Dr. Paryono, Deputy Director, SEAMEO VOCTECH, Dr. Kim Young Saing, Research Fellow, Korean Research Institute of Vocational Education and Training, KRIVET, Academician, WoCTVET 2022 workshop participants, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, first of all, let us praise to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessing. We can gather around here today to join the forum and opening ceremony of the 8th World Conference on TVET 2022. Resilient TVET in VUCA world towards is to the needs of global development. Hi, I'm Abdul Wafi bin Abdul Rahman, your host for today. Ladies and gentlemen, this 8th WoCTVET 2022 event is organized by the Faculty of Technical and Vocational Education and Malaysian Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training, MyRIVET, UTHM. In this morning, the event will be divided into two sessions. The first session is keynote address featuring a proficient speaker, and this followed by the forum that will be delivered by 3 panels. Afterwards, the afternoon session is meant for a paper presentation session. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin this workshop, I'd like to invite Ustaz Amirul Hakim bin Saparudin to doa recitation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wal 'aqibatu lil muttaqin wa la 'udwana illa 'alal zalimin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma ya Rahmanu ya Rahim. Ya Allah, wahai Tuhan kami, segala puji dan puja serta syukur dipanjatkan kepadamu ya Allah di atas segala rahmat dan nikmat yang telah Engkau kurniakan kepada kami. Kami bermohon agar Engkau berkati dan rahmatilah program 8th World Conference on TVET 2022 ini. Jadikanlah program ini sebagai suatu majlis yang diberkati dan diredai oleh-Mu ya Allah. Dengan keberkatan majlis ini ya Allah, kami memohon taufik dan hidayah-Mu. Kurniakanlah kesejahteraan, kebahagiaan dan keselamatan Anugerahkanlah kepada kami kesihatan yang sempurna, akal yang cerdas, hati yang terang bagi menjalankan tugas yang telah diamanahkan kepada kami. Allahumma ya dzal jalali wal ikram. Ya Allah, wahai Tuhan kami, perelokkan untuk kami agama kami yang menjadi penjaga urusan kami. Perelokkan untuk kami dunia kami yang menjadi tempat hidup kami. Perelokkan untuk kami akhirat kami yang menjadi tempat kembali kami. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'alillahumma fina wa la ma'ana wa la man yatsba'una shaqiyya wa la matrudan wa la mahruma. Rabbana 'alaika tawakkalna wa ilayka anabna wa ilaikal masir. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina 'adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you, Ustaz. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please let us start the event with welcoming remarks by Professor Technologist Dr. Abdul Rashid bin Abdul Razak, Dean Faculty of Technical and Vocational Education, UTHM. Please welcome him to deliver his welcome remarks. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we gather at the 8th World Conference on TVET, or WoCTVET, to celebrate the joy of knowledge and idea sharing. In the last 7 years, the participant in this conference has been increasing from time to time. As a TVET research promoter, we are delighted to welcome all of you who have made it this far, regardless of whether you are a researcher, lecturer, graduate, student, representative from the industry, or the expert. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate the Faculty of Technical and Vocational Education, FPTV, and the Malaysian Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training, or MyRIVET, for organizing the 8th World Conference on TVET, or WoCTVET. It has been a great pleasure for me to address the TVET educators and the trainers today in this conference, who have gathered to share their up-to-date research findings in TVET. WoCTVET is a platform for promoting the notion of checks and balance in the higher education. Experts and novices alike pose different concerns and issues during conference, and together we make the processes of the knowledge dissemination at a higher level more real and experiential, especially to young researchers. We managed to collect nearly 50 articles of different themes and around 200 participants from among students and academia are attending this conference. To all of you here, the conference today is the best chance to not only explore topics in TVET field, but also to develop a wide range of communication and study skills. Dissemination of the knowledge is not simply about writing and taking, but it takes practice and feedbacks based on the audience. I myself never stop studying. For young researchers, this conference increases our familiarity with the TVET research while ensuring good delivery of the research content. In this university, articulation of ideas is always welcome. Communication skills of various levels is highly favorable among the industry runners. Therefore, the conference should be enjoyed by all of us by giving our reviews, personal reflections, and constructive criticisms in a pleasant academic atmosphere. Honorable guests, scholars, and students, for the TVET scholars who want to stay competitive in this field, this conference is truly an opportunity to engage with other TVET researchers in a conducive context. The field of TVET itself comprises of unique combination of technical and vocational educators who are responsible for providing competent TVET teachers, trainers, and practitioners. Cutting-edge research, new methods, and theories are still in the division, especially those that can reflect on the reality of our local communities. Enough with importing culture bias research from the West, enough with importing culture bias research from the West. We should seriously translate technological advancement from the developed countries into the language of the technology that is understandable to our own people. All of us here are the best persons to do exactly what the society is calling for, that is, the local solutions. As the saying goes, think globally, but act locally. Therefore, we welcome more research about promoting the best TVET education that is suitable with the needs of our region. Ladies and gentlemen, the best a teacher could provide is the best condition for maximum learning to take place. The learning process itself is the time-consuming. However, there is a magic in the handling of human learners done by the expert trainers and educators. The magic lies in their research-informed lesson plans and education of the teaching and learning processes. If the condition of learning is maximized, difficult subject can be learned in a matter of a few minutes. In WoCTVET, the planning and education of TVET can be demonstrated by all technicals and vocational trainers and educators through our workshops and plenary sessions. It is magical because research-oriented teaching methods can unfold the meta blocks with the staggering new approaches, and this may cater to the specific needs of the TVET student. No doubt, a lot of methods that we implemented years ago has now become outdated, and from time to time, we need to update it to fulfill the youngest generation's needs. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end this speech, I would like to make a remark on the quality of what we are doing in conferences like today WoCTVET. Academic seminars that are impactful can really work in imparting the knowledge when the participants share what they have learned. As the test for the conference effectiveness, I hope the participants can apply what they have learned here in research and, of course, classroom construction. Last but not least, I congratulate all committees who have succeeded in making this seminar a reality. For all participants, I thank your motivation and interest in WoCTVET. I sincerely hope that all of attendees would benefit the most from this conference. We hope that this conference can meet its objective with the cooperation from all parties. That is all for now. See you again in the upcoming conference. Thank you and please enjoy.
Thank you, Prof, for the warm welcome speech. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now without further ado, we shall continue with an opening speech by Professor in Senior Technologist Dr. Zairi bin Ibrahim, Vice Chancellor, University Tun Hussein of Malaysia. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, let us be thankful to God for this beautiful day, healthy mind and body of fantastic visual technology, not to mention everything that allows today grand meeting of scholars in TVET to take place. I would like to welcome all of you to the 8th World Conference in TVET, or WoCTVET 2022. This post-pandemic event organized by UTHM is a meeting pot for the best brains in the field of TVET, where we celebrate research findings and advancement in TVET education. Ladies and gentlemen, we come here today with the awareness that WoCTVET is indeed a very important event. It is important in the sense that WoCTVET sets the trends of current and future research in TVET. The theme of this conference is Resilience TVET in VUCA World towards the needs of global development. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. To develop a modern nation with too many uncertainties may sound counterintuitive. However, as the frontiers in TVET, we take VUCA as a challenge. In fact, while treating technologies, we are retreating humanity. The more proactive actions must be taken by posting problems and offering the solutions earlier on, and this is truly the spirit of WoCTVET. Honorable guests, lecturers, researchers, students, ladies and gentlemen, we are the designers for the tomorrow in terms of preparing the best TVET education that ensure deliveries of technology to the entire VUCA market. Disruptive technologies like DRAP and bed and breakfast or Airbnb, to mention a few, are the example of how VUCA world provides opportunity for creativity. In this conference, we are highlighting two themes for the workshop, 16 terms of seminar papers. The two workshop themes are leadership and women in TVET. In addition, the 16 seminar papers can fall under one of the following themes: management and leadership, curriculum and instruction, information and communication technology or ICT, green technology, assessment and evaluation, innovation and educational technology, job and career development, technology and innovation, teacher education and curriculum development, teaching and training, methodology and innovation, philosophy and values in education, mobility and internationalization, STEM, gender equality and inequality, post-COVID challenges, new norm in education or technology. It's our pleasure to then propagate on when we have found based on all your contribution of knowledge and ideas by publishing the selected papers in Scopus Index journals for international viewers as well. This way, we hope to sharpen the academic skill of especially the young researchers, apart from increasing the visibilities of the scholars for networking purposes in the future. We do not talk about mere visibility or publicity, but it is about making the best person who knows the field to write and be able to be speak up for themselves and be accountable for the delivered knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, UTHM, is now fully geared for becoming an exemplary TVET institution in this region. We are both a teaching factory and a teaching hospital. Not only that, we provide the perfect platform for academia to gain adequate training on TVET. We also make internal changes that are tailored toward fulfilling the external market needs. This is clearly written in our vision, mission, and objective. We aim to produce lecturers and students who not only are knowledgeable in theories but also are high relevant, industry ready, timeless, and resilient to face the uncertainties of the future. This is because we have learned much of the TVET content, but the implementation on what we know in which context is the bigger question. Robert Prof and Emeritus author Ari Owens, columnist, wrote, "Learning is a lifetime process, but there comes a time when we must stop adding and start updating." Yes, we need to conduct interactive discussion to be critical, creative, and more open to diversity of ideas. In this conference, we make the pile-up knowledge more meaningful and targeted. Ladies and gentlemen, as usual, conferences and seminars like WoCTVET are organized to give awareness on the real current situation of TVET. Here, we can control the suggested line of growth in this field together. Based on scientific research, we also examine the past unfruitful approaches that may well be dropped from the current TVET practices. This way, a lot more mistakes can be avoided in the future, while priming those approaches and theories that research has found to be highly effective in TVET. Apparently, I know that ASEAN people are less vocal, less critical, and less interactive to some extent. Therefore, I will encourage greater interactive between all parties who are attending WoCTVET. We are expecting a surge of information by having the members of TVET academia to sit together and discuss their minds together. When bombarded with questions, aspects of knowledge can be explicated. Confusion and wrong conception can be made transparent. Even the experts will find this helpful for their career advancement. In conclusion, the contribution you all have made to this conference may seem small, but it is never small. As the saying goes, Rome is not built within a day. The seeds that we plant today will grow into big shady trees with our continuous support to WoCTVET in upgrading research on TVET. With Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I hereby would like to officiate the 8th World Conference on TVET or World WoCTVET 2022. Congratulations again to the organizers and participants. Thank you for your participation in WoCTVET 2022 and hope to see you again next year.
Thank you, Prof, for the remarkable and opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are bringing to you the montage for introducing the 8th World Conference on TVET 2022. Let's enjoy the montage. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the attention on the montage. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the session of keynote presentation. Please allow me to introduce our keynote speaker, Associate Professor, Technologist, Dr. Affero bin Ismail, Coordinator, UNEVOC Center, Head of Center of Industry, UTHM-Labtech Digital Innovation Center, FPTV. For a brief introduction about our speaker today, Affero Ismail is the Head of Digital Innovation Center, UTHM. Previously, he held a position as a Head of Department of the Malaysia Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training, MyRIVET. He is actively involved in international projects such as rebranding Maldives Polytechnic, public-private partnership, and TVET teacher standard. At the national level, he involved in the development of TVET educator standard, Committee for Council of Quality National Scale, National TVET Professional Educator Course, Asia TVET Expert Forum, and paper reviewer for various TVET conference and seminar. Without further delay, I would like to invite Associate Professor, Technologist Dr. Affero bin Ismail to deliver his speech on Strategic Leadership through Industry Institutions Partnership in VUCA World. Please welcome Associate Professor, the Doctor, to deliver his speech. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Thank you, Master of Ceremony, the Honorable Professor Theologist Dr. Rozairi bin Abdul Rahim, Vice Chancellor University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, Professor Theologist Dr. Abdul Rashid bin Abdul Razak, Dean Faculty of Technical and Vocational and Education, UTHM, Associate Professor Theologist Dr. Mimi Muhafizah bin Muhammad, Chairman of the WoCTVET 2022, WoCTVET Committee members, honorable guests, participants of the 8th WoCTVET 2022, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the organizing committee for inviting me here today as one of the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed, I would like to get your attention to think about the world that we are currently living. So nobody ever predicted that the COVID-19 gave us such big impact economically and even emotionally, and even now we are living in the new norm. Having said that, the current leaders are facing a very big challenge in the uncertain and complex world. So we cannot replicate the strategy that have been done before because it might not work in today's world. So talking about the big challenges and the current and the future leaders, what are the needs and the requirements for them to become a good leader in a VUCA world? So today I would like to talk about leading in a VUCA world. When we talk about a leader, so I would like to ask you, who is called as leader? It might be simple, it might be easy, but the true leader is someone who inspires passion and motivation in followers. A leader is someone with a vision and a path to realizing it. A leader also is someone who ensures their team has support and tools to achieve the goal. So when we talk about the leader, to become a good leader, we need to go through experience and training and even guidance from our management and even through the scenario that currently happening into this world. So now let's move to the most common characteristic of a leader. You might wonder, what are the criteria, what are the requirements to become a leader? So the first one is a purpose. So without sense of purpose, it's hard to motivate team members. So talking about motivate, so a leader also is a great motivator. Leaders can bring uplift the motivation in their team members. The third one is about the vision. Leaders can see the bigger picture and can unite team members behind their vision. And the fourth one is empathy. Leaders understand and have empathized their team members. So if you have the characteristic, you will become a good leader. So the fifth one is about the creativity. When we talk about the creativity, we always put in our mind the word why and how to get a good outcome. So the sixth one is the team vision. Although the company's overall mission may begin with its leader, so their vision will account for nothing if it doesn't speak to team members. And the last one is always trying to improve. So leaders never stop bettering themselves, they never stop learning. So by having this kind of characteristic, you will achieve a good momentum and come out with a good results at the end of certain project or task given to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to share to you the well-being team roles. So for a team, it not only consists of the leader but also the team members. So for each of the team members, a leader should understand what are their roles and what are their expertise for you to dig into details and to trigger their capabilities. So this is really important for a leader to understand this type of role, team role, for you to understand and to find out which are the role that is suit well to your team member. So the first one is the coordinator, second one is completer, finisher, team worker, implementer, specialist, resource investigator, shaper, and also plant. So talking about this role, let's move to the next slide. So basically, the team role consists of this kind of role based on the well-being. The plan is about the creativity and imaginative team members. Resource investigators, someone is very outgoing and also likes to explore new opportunities. Coordinator is someone is very mature, confident, identifies talent. Shaper is about challenging and dynamic person. Monitor, evaluator, strategy and listening, see all options. Team worker is people that are cooperative and listen and avoid frictions. Implementer is someone who is very practical, reliable, efficient. Completer, finisher, painstaking, conscientious, anxious, and specialist. This is someone is very special and they are very experts in their field. So from all these 9 team roles from Belbin, he mentioned that this can be categorized into 3 important domains. The first one is about thinking roles, second one is about action roles, and the third one is about people roles. So you can see by yourself by using, I don't have time to share with you the inventory that you can use to identify which role actually suits you very well. So as a leader, maybe you would like to find out what are the criteria or what is the expertise of each of your team member. You can use that inventory. You can Google it by typing the Belbin team roles inventory. So this is very interesting for you to understand the strength and weakness of your team members. Now let's move to our main agenda. It's about the VUCA. We have listened and we have discussed a bit about the leader, the characteristic, and also the team member that supports you. And now we are trying to relate on the VUCA word. I believe that most of you are already aware of this about the term VUCA. So I just want to share it again to recap back what is the VUCA. So VUCA is an acronym for that emerged from the military in the 1990s. It describes the fog of war, the chaotic conditions that are encountered on the modern battlefield. So the words VUCA itself actually is an acronym, stands for V is for volatile, U uncertain, C complex and ambiguous. Now it become very popular, especially after the COVID-19. So let's move to each of the words in the VUCA acronym. So the first word, the first alphabet, volatile. Volatile is about things that change unpredictably, suddenly, extremely, especially for the worst. So we can take an example like the COVID-19. It's happened so fast, right? So even our leaders, our managers cannot predict what they should do tomorrow when dealing with the uncertain situation. So talking about uncertain is important information is not known or definite, doubtful, unclear about the present situation and the future outcomes, not able to rely upon. So it's very critical, right? If you are a leader, to make such decision is very difficult and complex, many different and connected parts. So they are is scattered around multiple key decision factors, interactions between diverse agents, emergence, adaptation, and then the weak signals. So it's really complex that you have to take into consideration in so many angles, so many aspects and perspective. That's why this is really important for you to look at certain things in multiple angles. We can call it like 360 angles. And then ambiguous, open to more than one interpretation. So it can be understood in many ways. This is really important that you have to conduct a clear communications to make sure that everyone understand the current scenario and even to tell the people what you are thinking, your strategy in a proper manner. So volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So there are demands for this. When we are dealing with the volatility, a leader should have a vision. So a vision is about to take actions and probe changes. To the demands for the uncertainty, how you counter it back is to have understanding, wider understanding from different perspective. And let's move to the complexity. The demands is about the clarity, because it's complex. You have to to get focused on a specific angle, specific area, and do it one by one. You also have to be flexible and creative to deal with certain situation. And ambiguity, the demands its agility. Yeah, we always talk about agility and resilience, so this is quite famous right now. So it's about the decision making and innovation in your decision making. I would like to relate the VUCA concept, yeah, volatility, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, towards the leadership. What are the correlations? What are actually we can benefit from the current scenario? So as a leader, we have to understand about the VUCA leadership, because we might read about the previous strategy or previous practices. We can learn from that, but to implement the same strategy, to imitate or replicate the same things into this world is quite critical and a big challenge, because even our generation are also quite different. We are dealing with the people, technology people, when the fast changing of the transformation on the digital world, young people now are having a very interest in digitalization. So we have to understand that. So VUCA world that produce VUCA leadership is a style of leadership that is adaptable and responsive to change, open-minded and able to think outside the box. So the most important thing is responsive to change. We have to make a very quick decision. VUCA leaders need to be aware of the challenges inherent in VUCA environments and use various strategies such as collaborative decision-making, self-awareness, effective communication, and transparency, and hiring flexible employees to overcome them. So this is very important for you to have a very reliable, you can depend on your employees to work together with you. So this is about the VUCA leadership. Let's take a look at this diagram about how well can you predict the outcomes of given decisions today. So it's very important for you to make a quick decision. For example, in the volatility, the instability of the rapidness of change. So and then also on the uncertainty. For example, you are dealing with the stock market exchange. Even last time when we have changing in our political situations, we changed our prime minister. Even they got it affects our stock exchange. And also about the currency also is fluctuated. So to predict that, you need to get a very good experience and need a good knowledge and experience to certain issues. And I would like to take a simple example, like you are doing businesses, like a small business. You are now, for example, you are selling nasi lemak, for example, and now you are aware that the current ingredients, the price is increased stagnantly, and even now, you know, the oil for cooking and materials, all those things get increased very high, you know, and even you can not even get a very cheap delicacies out there. So if you are dealing with these situations, you want to sell your nasi lemak at the same price, either you want to reduce the ingredients, like to put smaller egg or smaller chicken in nasi lemak, or whether you want to maintain the current portion of nasi lemak but increase the price of that nasi lemak. So this is a quite critical issues for you to make a quick decision, because tomorrow you are going to sell it again. So and then you might feel that ambiguity because confusing situations are not clear. So your decision making progress very slow because of the current situation. So in order to do that, you have to look in multiple angles. Maybe you can ask about your customers, your people around you, whether are they willing to accept the increase of the price of nasi lemak, or they rather to pay at the same price but the minimal or reduce the portion of nasi lemak. So this is a very basic example I can share with you. And as of now, if we take into the the situations during the first time when the Malaysia hits the COVID-19, yeah, getting hit the COVID-19, and our ministries are having a quite hard time to make a decision whether they want to buy the vaccine or not. What are the mechanism to for example, to do the quarantine and do some of the center for checking up the people's health. So it's quite critical at that moment. So as a leader, you have to make a quick decisions, but brilliant enough to make sure that at the end of your decision, when you conduct or implement that, so you will get a good result. So talking about the agility and resilience, I would like to share this image to you regarding the bamboo. So the term resilience itself is ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. So as bamboo, be like a bamboo, bend but do not break. So now, what are the skills actually required to become a VUCA leader? So I would like to emphasize and focus on these 4 important skills, which are the futures literacy, system thinking, anticipation, and strategic foresight. If we go further details on these important 4 skills, I can say that in general terms, literacy is simply the ability to read and write, although it may be intended with a broader and more insightful meaning. The significant increase of literacy across many countries in the last 2 centuries, together with the push of Industrial Revolution, has enabled a dramatic leap forward for civilization. So this is the skill that allows people to better imagine and make sense of the future. So this is for the skills number 1, future literacy. So what about the skills number 2? System thinking. Almost the challenges presented by the effects of COVID-19 relate to systems. Essentially, a system consists of 3 things. First one is a scope or function, second one is parts, and the third one is relationships. So we need to understand further in these 3 important components. In a system, the effect of interventions may appear distant in space and time. System thinking is a mindset to think, communicate, and learn about the current and the future. So let's move to the skill number 3, anticipation. To explain this concept, we should reflect on a couple of things. In the present, there are signals of the future, and these signals are of something that is not yet evident, but which has the potential to become empirical evidence if circumstances permit. Therefore, today, there are futures in progress, even they are not clearly visible for most of us. So let's move to the important skills. Number 4 is strategic foresight. The disruptive changes in front of us will require choices and decisions, and this will influence how the future world will evolve. So I would like to summarize that into 4P, which is possible, plausible, probable, and preferred future. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's take a look at the screen on the top 10 risks over the next 10 years. So this is predictions by the World Economic Forum, produced by the experts in the field. So as you can see on the screen, it's about the first risk that's going to happen in the next 10 years, even it's happening now, is the extreme weather. So some of the countries are experiencing very cold seasons, and some of the countries very hot. Yeah, so this is like changes in our nature. And the second one is the climate action failure. So this is regarding the carbon dioxide or ozone is become thinner by years. So this is very important for us to preserve the environment for the young generations. And the third one is about the natural disaster. So it's very sad that we always hear news and sad moments from our friends in neighboring countries. For example, in Indonesia, there are always been earthquakes everywhere. And last time we being surprised by the news from the Pakistan. So it's being a heavy flood happened at Pakistan. So these natural disasters is become very active, no? So we have to be very carefully, because this is actually due to the human-made environmental disasters. So as you can see on the screen is number 5. So I will just go to the number 5, which is everything that happening around us is because of the human, because of the people. So we have to be very carefully to take care of the environment, because in the next 10 years the prediction will become worse by years. So we should start from now, okay? And then the biodiversity loss is about the petroleum and more on the natural resources that our Mother Earth have. So on the second section is about the digital and technological. It's about the data fraud or theft. Now if we are looking into the records, there are multiple cases, very many cases regarding the commercial crime. People are being scammed because through just simple mechanism like using the social media and even using Telegram and WhatsApp. People are requesting for money from you, and then they are using your friend's profile. So this is very critical at this moment. Even it's also happening in the professional services like lecturers and the top management level. So we have to be very carefully. This is all regarding to the personal data protection. We should be very carefully when sharing our data. Yeah, I do believe that most of us actually using the same email, the same password for multiple and across the social media platforms. Even you are using the same username and password for the email, right? So this is quite critical for us to understand that there are so many consequences. There are so many loopholes in the system for those who are becoming the scammers or digital scammers to dig into our details. So we have to be very carefully in this term. And also the cyber attacks is regarding the people are getting or intrude into your system. So this become very critical if this we can call that cyber attacks happening to our government system, and even the data will get lost. And last time we also have this scenario that our data gets stolen from this airlines company. So they got spam emails and their data is exposed to everywhere. You know why? Because now one of the demanding job is the market analysis or data analytic. They can use your data to predict and to understand your lifestyle, your purchasing intention, and so on. So this is during this transition, because of the technology changes. Now we have a metaverse, right? The Facebook are moving forward metaverse, and the metaverse itself is dealing with the people having their own property at the different world, which is digital world. So this is quite interesting for us to look into further on that aspect. And then another issue is about the water crisis. Yeah, on the water crisis, we are very lucky in Malaysia, because we are being provided with a good water system, and we have a good dam, and around Malaysia we are surrounded by water. So thanks to the government and thanks to the management system that providing and working very hard to provide the quality water for us. But somehow in the few years we still listen to these issues regarding the quality of water in certain areas in Malaysia, right? And about the global governance failure is more on the conflicts between the governments, between the countries. So it's happening even now. Yeah, I would say from the United States, from the Ukraine and China. This is major countries, economic holder in around the globe. So they are expected to become worse in the next 10 years. And the last one is the asset bubble. So I have come across to this one talk by the economist expert. Yeah, he mentioned that this is not a moment for you to buy asset. It's not a time for you to buy property, but it's good for you to keep more cash value in your hand. So these are the 10 risks over the next 10 years. It's going to happen not only in Malaysia but all around the globe. Therefore, as a leader, you have to understand what are the skills are being in demand, and what are the forecasting actually jobs is being disruptive, and even what are the skills that you are going to put into your system. So this is based on the study by World Economic Forum on the Future of Jobs report. They examine the current situation and expected to become slight changes in the next few years. So they expected in 2020, in the current year, the growing skills are analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, creativity, originality and initiative, technology, design and programming, critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving, leadership and social influence, emotional intelligence, reasoning, problem solving and ideation, and system analysis and evaluation. So from the table, you can see the growing skills are actually really related to the technology. Now we are producing people towards a design or a designer for the technology. So as we move to another sections about the declining skills, so in regards to this, we can say that the manual, dexterity, endurance, precision, memory, verbal, auditory and spatial abilities, management of financial and material resources. So this is related to the financing system, because there are so many financial management being replaced by the system and application, and technology installation and maintenance, reading, writing, math and native listening. So this is also being declining. Management of personnel, quality control and safety awareness, coordination and time management, visual, auditory and speech abilities, technology use, monitoring and control. So as you can see that the growing and declining skills predicted and currently is happening in this 2020 is due to the fast growing of the technology. So the investment now is being in place for many of the sectors, such as the artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT and big data. So those skills actually those technology actually requires people in these specific skills. So as a leader in the VUCA world, it's no longer for you to have outdated skills. Yeah, it's no longer for you to have what we can say that it's not any relevant any longer in this world, because even our generation in current world the digital generation, they are coming from the millennia and alpha generation. They are starting their life, yeah, even the first day of their life is dealing with the technology. So it's different between their time, between our time. So we have to adapt and very flexible. Sometimes students we are talking about the teaching and learning, students are looking forward to a new skill set, yeah, and even the technology used during teaching and learning should be very carefully designed and very carefully being in place. So I would say that it is very important for a young leader and a future leader to understand the big changes, the big difference between the time before, I would say before COVID and after the COVID. So this is a very big gap between that transition, and even now even we are looking forward on the technology changes, but still the human touch and human approach still need to be there. So I would like to leave you with a take-home message. This is regarding the function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. So I hope that we can get something from this presentation, even if it's not very detailed, but I do hope that you can get basic idea and understanding on regarding the VUCA itself, the good leadership characteristic, how to become a good team members, and how actually the relationship between the VUCA and the leadership when we go together. This is how the way we are dealing with the uncertainty, complexity, ambiguous, and the volatility. So I would like to end my presentation with thank you to the participants and listeners for spending your time here, and get back to you committee members. Thank you, and see you again in different platform in the future. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof, for the information sharing. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University Tun Hussein Malaysia, thank you for being here and welcome to the forum session with the theme Strategic Leadership through Industry Institutions Partnership in VUCA World. Without any further ado, we would like to pass this forum session to the moderator of the session, Associate Professor, Technologist Dr. T.Z. Kiong, Senior Lecturer of FPTV and Head Department of Global Cooperation, MyRIVET, UTHM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our chairperson. Hello and hi to all participants. How are you? I hope everyone is in good shape. Today is the 13th of December 2022. Welcome to the 8th World Conference on TVET, Resilient TVET in VUCA World Towards the Needs of Global Development. The title for Forum 1 is Strategic Leadership Through Industry Institution Partnership in VUCA World. I'm Dr. T.Z. Kiong, Head of Global Cooperation Department from Malaysia Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training, MyRIVET, the moderator for this forum. Before we start, I'm proud to introduce our three distinguished panelists. Please welcome our first panelist, T.S. Muhammad Fadzil Muhammad Idris, the Chief Executive Officer of FIC Integrated Property Management Sdn Bhd, FIC IPM. Welcome, T.S. Muhammad Fadzil. Our second panelist is Dr. Paryono, the Deputy Director for Professional Affairs and Research Manager, SEAMEO VOCTECH Regional Center. Welcome, Dr. Paryono. Last but not least, our third panelist is Dr. Young Saing Kim, a policy researcher from Korea. Before we proceed to the forum, allow me to explain the flow of this event. We will have this forum with 2 rounds of questions and answers for the 3 panelists. If you have any question for the panelists, please feel free to type it in the live chat. Kindly state your name, question, and to which panelist that you wish to ask the question. Before we proceed to the first round of the question and answer session, it's good for us to know better our panelists. So I would like to introduce T.S. Muhammad Fadzil Muhammad Idris. Muhammad Fadzil is the CEO of FIC Integrated Property Management Sdn Bhd, FIC IPM, effective from the year 2022. He has over 25 years of industry experience managing and leading companies in the aviation, property development, oil and gas refinery, project management, facility management, and utility management. Prior to his appointment as the CEO, he was the COO, Head of Company of FIC IPM in 2021. He has served Felda Investment Corporation, FIC, Group under various department portfolios since 2016 and is well-rounded with FIC businesses. It is also the Board of Director of FIC Subsidiaries Company and Chairman of FIC Group Safety Working Committee. One of his initiatives as the COO of FIC IPM is the integration of work-based learning program, that is WBL, a collaboration between the University of Tun Hussein Malaysia and FIC IPM, where students can experience working directly in various departments in the company. In the year 2022, he has been appointed as Adjunct Professor by University Tun Hussein Malaysia as part of his well-rounded experience and contribution to various industries. As part of his professional contribution to the working industry, So he believes that a man's success is determined by the balance of work and family values. He also has a passion for restoring cars. As a leader, he's passionate about creating new leaders. He believes that individuals, if given the right tool and guidance, can achieve their goals. I believe we know T.S. Mohd Fadzil better now. Now, it's time for me to introduce Dr. Paryono. Dr. Paryono has been working in the area of education, especially in technical and vocational education and training, TVET, for more than 30 years. Currently, he's the Deputy Director for Professional Affairs and the Research Manager and Specialist at the Regional Center for Vocational and Technical Education and Training under the Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Organization, SEAMEO VOCTECH, in Brunei Darusalam. Before joining the regional center, he was a lecturer at State University of Malang, Indonesia, and visiting lecturer at various universities in the US, including the University of Wisconsin-Madison, University of Washington, Seattle, and in China at Beijing Normal University. He was also a recipient of a Fulbright visiting scholar at Cornell University. He holds a PhD degree for a dual title in Workforce Education and Development and Comparative International Education from Pennsylvania State University, Master degree in Continuing and Vocational Education from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and Bachelor's degree in Civil Engineering Education from the State University of Malang, Indonesia. His research and publication focus on TVET and skills development, innovative teaching learning, qualification frameworks, occupational standards, quality assurance, ICT and digitalization in education, skills development, integration of life skill, transversal skills, soft skills in TVET, education for sustainable development, teacher standards, and preparing TVET for industry requirements. That's a lot. So lastly, it's our Dr. Young Saing Kim. So as a policy researcher in Korea, Dr. Kim has completed more than 24 policy-oriented research focused on national skills policy and job creation strategy since 2005. Before working for the Korean government, Dr. Kim obtained a master's in 1993 in vocational education and workforce development at Seoul National University. He then studied it at Columbia University in New York, United States, where he received his doctorate in the year 2004 in the field of human resource development and national development. He was interested in the comparative perspective concerning the relationship between national culture, skills development, and national academic development. Furthermore, from 2005 to June 2006, he worked as a senior researcher in the Korea Rural Academic Institute, and from February 2009 to July 2009, he was the policy expert on the National Skills Strategy and SMEs Development Task Force team at the Presidential Council for National Competitiveness of Korea. So thank you very much for your attention. Without further ado, I would like to start the round one question and answer session. The first question is for T.S. Mohd Fadzil. So we all know that VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So it describes the situation of constant, unpredictable change that is now the norm in certain industries and areas of the business world. VUCA demands that one to avoid traditional, outdated approaches to management and leadership. So and day-to-day working. Since the current world is highly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and VUCA education means embracing change and welcoming it. So the question for T.S. Mohd Fadzil is, how do TVET educators could survive or cope with the VUCA world? The floor is yours, T.S. Mohd Fadzil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me loud and clear? Okay, first of all, I would like to thanks to organizer and of course UTHM for inviting me for this program. And again, I would like to thanks to UTHM on the collaboration and also my appointment as adjunct professor, was basically I have the opportunity to participate in terms of how do we move forward to make it this TVET sustainable. So basically part of the team to fill up whatever gap that the inventor of TVET has done their great job, creating this product TVET under the UTHM and other MTON University collaboration. And again, about the program a bit, I would say we are very lucky at Felda Investment Corporation, subsidiary of Felda, to have the first batch of work-based learning student from UTHM. I have fantastic, wonderful 24 students with me for 1 year. Now they have entered into their month number 8. So they have gone through the challenges in terms of the real corporate world. At the same time, me, myself, and my team have the opportunity to go through their strength, their weaknesses, the opportunity that they have now, even not even finished. There are people who basically looking for them already, and of course the threat and the challenges that they need to learn. How do they maneuver in order for them to be sustained and strong in the industry? So TVET, so basically just a little bit of background of our company before we start. So like I mentioned, the 24 student, 12 months. So we are the project management consultant for Felda. So to build infrastructure like road building and all that. And then we also the facility manager throughout Malaysia, 317 village area. And then these students have the very, very good opportunity and platform for them to learn. Because I'm just giving example what I have now, the 24 students, they are from the Bachelor Technologies in Construction Management. So basically a right path for them to go through FIC IPM as their testing ground or learning ground in the corporate world. Maybe a bit micro in terms of my example. So to me, VUCA literally means to think outside the box, So as TVET educators, industry link professional, so we means including me, I have the opportunity to teach them, to guide them in the position to share first-hand knowledge of the change. As the first speaker summarized just now, change is every day now, every hours, especially with the major impact of COVID. Everything change. Yeah? So it is also important for institution and industry professional to work together. Working together means not just the institution, so also a collaboration with industry player, as well as the regulator and other stakeholder, relevant stakeholder. So because the changes involve a lot and doesn't mean that the change in terms of regulation and all that suits with the current environment and so on. So we need to work hand in hand. So that means participation from the question here, how TVET educators could survive or cope with the VUCA world. That means not just at the faculty, have to go out, working closely with stakeholder, name it, regulator, industry player, so and other relevant. So time is not really with me. I would like to give direct example in how do we position ourselves in day to day. One of the best example tool to use is PESTEL, PESTEL analysis from the strategic. So basically political, economy, social, technology, environment, and legal. These are the things will change. Every country is different. Every state is different. Every industry sometimes is different, especially with the COVID-19. Everything changed, everything changed. So therefore, the student as well as the educators who basically will produce the product, the student is the product, the educators is the supplies basically. So we need to basically be very, very alert in terms of the changes in terms of course, SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunity and threat, is one of the tools. But the direct example, political, for example, in construction management, we are talking about investment, return of investment, property, facility, infrastructure. How do we minimize the risk in order to achieve the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is not just construction. It's up to the whole life cycle, to the extent issuance of CCC. And then after that, occupied by end user, ensure this infrastructure facility safe, smooth, efficient, help to fill up whatever gap from the end user side. So perhaps in terms of syllabus as well, we probably need to have some, not to say volatile change, but significant change required in terms of the whole cycle. But yes, of course, maybe their core business or core product or core subject is just construction management. In my case, this example construction, because I'm with the student and the program. Maybe other syllabus, other program or other faculty also could do the same thing. So I give example, the short example in terms of politics. Yeah. The changes of current government and everywhere, it's like every 5-year cycle, election and all that. In terms of state policy, could be changed, the federal, even national. You talk about you talk about economy, the same thing. With COVID-19 in Malaysia, we have variant of price in terms of construction material increase. First, 4 numbers of type of material. Now, I think if I'm not mistaken, 17. So automatically, the pricing, the economy is different already. Price change, and then the student or the educators need to occupy ourselves. So need to be ready for these changes in terms of procurement strategy, you know, and followed by the rest. For example, even social, you have educated stakeholder in terms of end user, their demand, their requirement, everything in the fingertip now, you know. So they are exposed to so many things in terms of benchmarking. It is really actually, the pestle that I'm talking about, pestle related directly to COVID and indirectly for other things. And for example now, if you talk about technology, it is very, very important. A technology change the first time COVID, so we have to stay at home, cannot move, cannot even work. But this is the beginning of people have no choice but move into technology. We have no option. We have to meeting through Zoom, you know, through VC meeting. And of course, after that, we need to have digital signature on board, no longer manual signing document and all. But it is very positive actually. Everywhere, people, for example, I have to manage about 12 state, the infrastructure and the staff all together, except Penang and Sarawak, we don't have. So the rest, we have our people, our project, the facility that we have to look, you know, water treatment plant, power plant. So with this technology, with this COVID also, we have the advantage in terms of using technology. Other technology like even reporting and storage, now we migrate our project management information, everything in the cloud signing. So in the cloud-based reporting. And very important thing now, like I said, the educate stakeholder, educated regulator, BIM have to come into place, building information modeling. There is no room, I think now, very minimum room to make error, to manage the clash and all that, so to complete. Same goes to environment, definitely. During the pandemic, even now, certain things are restricted for us to go. So it changed. And of course, the legal, last component of the pestle. So legal changed a lot in terms of regulation. If you can see next year, Malaysia, we are going to adopt the new Employment Act. So maternity leave also different entitlement, paternity leave, overtime entitlement, everything, all the changes will have impact. So VOCA is basically, literally, we have to think outside the box almost every day. And okay, last but not least, I know I have 2 more minutes to go. Last but not least, this program, TVET, is excellent. The student product, I would say the product is totally different than conventional university student. They are hands-on people, very good. We just need to tune more. But speaking about the educators, student, okay, I think we can manage. I think the educators also will need to spend more time with industry. Industries including industries and regulator. So you have to do more benchmarking. She have to face the real challenge in the working environment, locally or internationally, so that we can produce a sustainable product or people or leaders in VOCA world. I think that's the thing that I wanted to share. So I have more. Maybe in the round 2, I'll talk about it even more on the student itself. But it is related. It takes two to tango. Basically, the product as well as the supplies. With that, thank you so much. Over to the organizer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, TS Muhammad Fadzil. So I believe that TS has given us a very good examples from the micro to a very broad scope of perspective on how the TVET educators should survive or cope with the VUCA world. So a very good example, and I think the 24 students are very lucky to have TS as their TVET educators. So yeah, I think that's a very good answer from our first panelist. So without further ado, I would like to proceed to our second question. It's for Dr. Paryono. So VUCA education means falling in love with the journey and not the destination. So it means focusing on the skills that will help one to meet an uncertain future with one's best foot forward. Learning from setbacks, persevering through adversity, knowing who we are, and anchoring that deeply to weather any storm that comes. So from your point of view, what can TVET educators learn about VUCA? Dr. Paryono.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can, Dr. Paryono.
Great. Okay. Okay, everyone. Very good morning and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm very happy again to be with all of the speakers as well as the participants for this conference. I think this is a good opportunity. End of the year, we try to end the year with sharing information and knowledge. Again, in response to your questions, again, what can teachers or educators learn about VUCA? And for me, you know, personally, when I heard the first time this term VUCA, I think we also organized conference like this last year at SEAMEO VOCTECH. Because this word has been around for quite some time, and we are kind of curious why we need to do this, why we need to respond to this, and I feel like personally this is, you know, it's normal that in our life, you know, all of things changing, and this is, I think, something that is very permanent. It's about changes, and I think we are you know, facing the fact that in the past few years, especially since digitalization, since the information sharing is becoming more and more, I think that is the pressure of having a VUCA world is becoming stronger. But this actually is nothing, something like, you know, that happened in a sudden, but this is already, you know, gradual process, but exacerbated by the ICT and also the floods of informations. And now, what can TVET teachers do or educators learn from this VUCA? We are still experiencing, you know, we are in the middle of it, in the midst of it, and so in this case, of course, we need to learn as well as we continue growing. My first, because two things that when we talk about teachers, TVET teachers, we cannot separate our life or ourselves with the student. We present, we work in a school or in the colleges or the universities because of the students. So normally we exist and also we function because the students need a little bit of guidance or facilitation so that at the end they can prepare themselves for the future. So in this case, when I talk about how TVET educators learn about VUCA, we need to think about ourselves as the teachers, but also we need to think about the world of our students. Because the way we upgrade our knowledge and experience will, in a way, also directly or indirectly will affect the way we prepare our students. So I think these are the two things that we need to look at. And I like to cite a very interesting expert, Bob Johansson, regarding how to respond to VUCA by also offering VUCA. So instead of VUCA from volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, he proposing to counter that by having a vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So what would we mean by that? Those vision, meaning that in our life, we need to establish or we need to continue crystallizing our future. Because every time we need to change, every time we meet intersection and we need to decide where to go. So I think this is the time that, especially working in TVET, whereby the educations and training that change almost, all the time because of the demand from industry, as mentioned by our previous speaker, as Muhammad Fadzil earlier, that again, industry changes. So, of course, defense institutions also be able to respond to that. So we need to crystallize our future, our visions, as well as the purpose. And then the second one is about the understanding. So in this case, we need to identify the opportunities and also think about what kind of strengths that we have, the competitive advantage that we have, both at the school level, ourselves as the teachers, the program that the school offering, as well as the surrounding environment. What can we find something that is, we can use it as a competitive advantage. So that's also something that we need to look at. And the C here is about the clarity and respond to the complexity. It's, we try to address any confusion because, of course, life in this era, a lot of things is unclear. So we need to address, sometimes we avoid confusion so that at the end we have a better clarity. And also build better relationships. Relationships here, basically all stakeholders that we have. Of course, industry is very important. And I think it's recommended also that teachers need to spend more time with industry. Talk to them, spend time with them so that we know what is happening in industry. So better relationship with industry, also with the other stakeholders, including like the government, those who create laws and regulations, because that's also affect the way we run education and training. And the A about agility is how can we, in a way, react and respond effectively to the threat. Again, this is constantly happening, that we need to adjust our focus, our visions. We need to be able to find what is our strengths, and we try to address the confusions and also build relationship or partnership with others. And also we should be able to react and respond effectively to the threats that is always happening around us. So that is my sharing on the Bob Johansson's ideas. And now in terms of competencies, because when we talk about teachers, we have, I think, our keynote mentioned Affero regarding the TVET teacher standards. We have the regional TVET teacher standards. Also, every country they have the teacher standards. And when we talk about standards, we always talk about competencies. So, what do we mean by competencies here, and what should it be the focus of the competencies that we need to discuss? Previously, in the old days, where the environment is still more, in a way, static. The changes happening, but not as fast as now. we remember about the I competencies. I meaning straight. We have foundation and we have one area of specialization. During the previous days, maybe that's important because we can foresee that I will work in certain occupations. But now if you can see that occupation change. In fact, a lot of occupation happening or occurring every day. So that at the end, TVET Institute must be able to respond to that. So if we offer programs like what is happening right now, is make our program easily outdated because again, the needs of industry keep changing. So instead of I model or I type of competencies, we move to the T. T meaning we have a strong foundation. Strong foundation include the basic competencies like math, science, also related to the soft skill like communications, problem solving, relationship with others, work ethics. Those are the foundation. The foundation is strong, and then we have one area of specialization. That is the T model. I think a lot of us also discussing about it, that we need to prepare our students with a strong foundation, including the teachers or area of specialization. But this one, again, in the VUCA world, still difficult to sustain. So we need to be able to be more agile and responsive to the needs. So we need to prepare our students with multi competencies or sometimes multi-occupations. Multi-occupations meaning that we need to still provide a very strong foundation, but also we need to look at or preparing them with several area of specializations. So some people call it as the M-type model. M meaning that you can see M has 3 legs. So maybe we have 2 or 3 area of specializations. Or even right now, people say it as using comb type model. Comb because you can see that comb we have a lot of legs. So basically, these are the kind of specialization that we need to prepare because time change and occupation also change very quickly. So we need to prepare our students with different or various type of occupations and also competencies in this regard. So that's, I think now also the trend in this VUCA world, and the teachers also need to be able to prepare themselves with a strong foundation, with also several competencies or area of specializations, so that we can also prepare our students in that way. And when we talk about VUCA, we talk also a lot about the digitalization, talking about technology. And this is something that normally teachers, especially the old teachers, feel reluctant or have feel of apprehension, when we talk about or using the technology. But I think in this world, we cannot avoid it because look at the way we do right now. We are having conference online. So familiarizing with the technology is very important, either through mobile phone, computers, or the cloud, and so many things that we can do. So my recommendation for the teachers, besides preparing for the multi-competencies, also please prepare ourselves to be comfortable, familiar, comfortable, and master technology, especially the one that can help us generate information, and also give us some idea how to manage, as well as share information and knowledge. I think this is, we need to continue, especially the older teachers, to be familiar, comfortable, and master this technology bit by bit, so that at the end, we won't be left behind. Because if our students master the technology, this is normally what happens, more than us, make the teachers feel kind of less confident, and at the end, becoming kind of a way, distancing ourselves with the technology, whereby this is not the way to go. And of course, and this time we should not be complacent, be open-minded, and also continue learning new things, because a lot of things happening right now in different parts of the world. So we need to continue learning new things. But another thing that I feel this is the issue that we are facing is about the gaps. Some teachers are in a way quite ready entering VUCA world, but some are not. Same also as a student, same also as a TVET institution. Some institutions are ready with that, with the technology, with the competency of the human resources, but others are not. And this is, I think, the issue that we are tackling, especially in the big country. The countries that are very heterogeneous, like Malaysia, of course, Indonesia, where I'm from. It's a big country. Schools are so varied. So in this case, how can we narrow the gap? Narrow the gap of the competencies among teachers, among educators. Some of us quite good, but how can we address those who are still lacking opportunity to upgrade their knowledge and skills? So if we can also share this and also narrowing the gap of the competency of our students, because we can see that some students are still lacking, and we normally just looking into the normality, looking at those who are in the middle without paying attention, those who are on the left side, those who are lag behind, and those who are progressing very fast. So I think this is also something that we need to keep in mind about how to narrow the gaps of the competencies among us, among teachers, as well as among students. I think this may be to respond to the first questions, and later on we can discuss further. Dr. T, thank you very much, and I'll give it back time to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paryono, for your very comprehensive answer. I'll try to recap some of the main points that Dr. Paryono shared with us. So Dr. Paryono mentioned that we are experiencing the VUCA, that we need to learn and continue improving as an educator. So we cannot separate the educators and students, and educators must give guidance to the students, and we need to think of the world of students as well and upgrade educators from time to time. And he also mentioned about establishing and crystallizing the future, the vision as an educator. We need to understand the opportunities and strengths that we have on the teachers and the environment as well. We need to spend more time to the industry to create a very strong relationship between the academic institution and the industry, that as what T.S. Muhammad Fadzil also mentioned earlier. And we need to react and respond to our, based on our purpose, vision, strength, and building the partnership is very critical. And he also talked about the competencies. Then we have the regional TVET standards already, and the focus on competency due to occupation change. So we are moving from the I model to the T model, and he also mentioned about the COM model, and preparing a very strong foundation to the students with the M-type model. And lastly, he recommended that educators must prepare. We prepare the educators must be very familiar, comfortable, and master the technology and be open-minded. And lastly, also to narrow down the gap between the gaps for the educators and the students. So I think that's a little bit that I can recap for Dr. Paryono answers. Then we move to the third question for Dr. Kim. So Dr. Kim, so ultimately VUCA helps us to realize that all ways of working cannot be relied upon, and to succeed in the VUCA world means being agile and having the ability to adapt to the changing winds. So our journey is not always going to be linear, and there has become a real need to live in the moment and change when needed. So perhaps Dr. Kim can share with us the nature of VUCA in TVET, especially before suggesting the strategies to handle it. So the virtual floor is yours, Dr. Kim.
Okay, thank you, Moderator Kiong. Yeah, it is a good opportunity to share the ideas and then my experience. Actually, first of all, I drink this tea every day in the morning because this is #1 tea. Very good quality and very balanced. I couldn't find any other better tea in the world. Actually, I'm visiting 23 countries every year. Thus, I'm trying to get some good tea, but this one is best one for me. Okay, and that's why I'm drinking every morning when I have an important meeting. Yeah, in terms of the VUCA, the concept comes out in research field 15 years ago. And then actually the COVID-19 pandemic and then the global inflation provides some opportunity to understand the real VUCA world. And then this is very good keyword to understand the nature of this new world and new normal. But when you look at when you look at understand the VUCA, we need to look at the skill formation system. Actually, this is not just a Tibet individual Tibet institute or government policy. We need to look at the skill formation system, because okay, in my point of view, VUCA is one of the important matter we need to take care of when you take a look at a skill formation system. Thus, if we react to the VUCA one by one, it's very difficult. But when you look at skill formation system point of view, it's not that much complex or difficult to understand. Because, yeah, this is my argument, is that we need to upgrade our skill formation system. And then we need to think about the maturity of our skill formation system. And Korea and then most of the ASEAN, including the Indonesia and Malaysia, the skill Tibet system began only 40 or 50 years ago. We have only 40 and 50 years experience of Tibet system. But in another country, for example, German, they started this system few hundred years ago. Thus, they have more advanced level of the skill formation system. Thus, I'm communicating with the Germany, and then they think about this this issue, same issue, in different way. Because when and then okay, thus that means we do not make a big change in our skill formation system. Thus, we need to just upgrade our system just one by one. And then we can figure out how can we react to the VUCA. And then thus we need to make our issue simple and understandable. And then, yeah, when I look at the biggest company in Malaysia, 10 biggest Malaysia, actually 7 or 8 are property or bank. Only 2 manufacturing, chemical, and then the other one's petrol. That means that is actually when I visited Malaysia 1 month ago, and then I visited the ministries. And then we have a lot of discussion with the real Tibet Institute, Polytechnic, and the others. And then the biggest issue was the cooperation with the industry. They want to have a better relationship with the industry, but industry is not cooperative. That is the most big complaint from the Vocational Education Institute. But when I look at the top 10 biggest company, only 2 is manufacturing and the chemistry, and the other 10, the other 8 is a banking and property. Yeah, banking and property company cannot be cooperative in Tibet. But when you look at the program in Tibet and in Polytechnic, most of them is manufacturing, industry, and service. But service is not the banking service. It's a general service, and then the hospitality, and then thus is a match between the industry need, demand, and then the Tibet industry is mismatched. Thus, I think your direction of Tibet, they want to have more innovation in manufacturing, and they want to have more innovative company. Thus, innovation leading economy they're looking for. But actually, the company profile is more not innovative. The property and then banking is very conservative. They do not looking for innovation, and then they do not need this kind of the manufacturing skilled workers. Thus, this kind of mismatch is the biggest issue, I think, in Malaysia. Thus, I think that's why so many the skilled worker graduate from Tibet, they have no job or small job. And many Tibet institute, they are not happy because the employment rate is not that much high. And then even does we need to think about skill formation system? Does we need to think about the supply and demand in more practical way? Actually, when I look at your direction, the Malaysia direction of the Tibet is more innovation oriented, and then manufacturing, and more processing oriented. But when I look at the demand side, it's not that much innovative. Thus, we need to encourage the government policy to help the growth of the innovative company and the others. Actually, that is my first understanding. And then we need to think about update the curriculum reflecting market change. Some of the institute, they have very old curriculum. They actually, compared to the Korean Tibet Institute, they changing their curriculum every year, every 2 years. Thus they delete, that means remove some department or program because there are no market demand. Then they close down the program or institute. But in Malaysia, they just want to increase the number of the program. Sometimes they need to remove it. Sometimes they need to close down the institute. That is natural, but it's very difficult, they say. Thus I say, oh, this program is not active. Why? There are no job available in the market. But the administration say, it's very difficult to close down because there are so many reasons. Thus I think we need to think about more basics. That's why how much the Tibet Institute reflecting the market demand and then transforming their system and program. That is most important. And then that is very important to upgrade your skill formation system. Thus right now, up to now, the Malaysian institutes is increasing. And then number of the program is increasing. But when I look at the budget is not that much increased last 10 or 15 years. That means each program has less resource. That is a big issue. Thus, their program cannot be upgraded. Thus, in Korea, we decrease the number of the program, and then we increase the budget. Thus, each program has more resource. That's why they can be more transportable. They can be prepare the future, and then they can use more. Thus, they can be more agile. Agility is most important things, but without the resource, they cannot be agile. Agility. And then, yeah, that is, and then we need to be more listen to the environment, because environment has a lot of information. Thus, they need to have the communication intact with the environment. That is one of things. And then in this case, I think non-hierarchical leadership is very important, because all the stakeholder, all the member of the Tibet Institute become a part of leadership. Otherwise, they cannot interact their environment interactively. Okay, the moderator, how much time do I have now?
You still have time, Dr. Kim, no worry. I will give you
how many minutes does I need to? How many minutes?
You can have another 2 minutes, no problem.
Okay, that's 2 minutes. Okay, and then the transparency among the Tibet Institute stakeholders. That is another things. Open mindset is another things we need to think about it. Okay, and then in this case, there are some confusing about what is the negotiable matter and what is the non-negotiable matters. For example, when I have a communication with the Tibet Institute, they say, oh, we need to keep this program. But they say, oh, this is very important. But when I look at the market, yeah, we need to change or delete this program. They think their program is non-negotiable. But when I look at the real matter, reality, this is negotiable. They need to change something. That's this kind of the communication and then important. And that at the same time, we think about the small experiment. Right now, the fourth industrial revolution, they require the new program and new things. But when you try the big experiment in one time, very difficult to manage it. Thus, we can have a small experiment first. Then when you have some positive outcome or result, then we can put one step further. Thus, we need to try some small experiment together, and then we can go further. But this is my impression, when I have a discussion with the Malaysian Tibet Institute, well, their size of the experiment is too big. They want to do something big things. But to try the big things, you need a big amount of resource money, and then big, strong leadership. But when I look at their budget and the leadership, they do not have enough leadership, and then the budget. In that case, experimenters cannot be successful. Thus, we need to start small, experiment together, and then if we have some positive, then we can go further. And lastly, I want to talk about the portion of Tibet in education system. I visited Germany 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then we have a BIBB Congress. And one of the surprises is that the portion of Tibet is decreasing. It was more than 50% 20 years ago in German, but right now the Tibet is only 30-something. So many German youths, they want to study in university, even though they cannot have a good job after the university graduation. Why? Because they think about the future. Even though they cannot have a good job just after the graduation, they want to study in higher education. Thus, the same thing happened in Korea and Australia. Thus, this is one of their basic interaction to this kind of change. Thus, I will discuss a little more about this matter. Thus, we need to think about the portion, how much portion the Tibet should have in this kind of environmental change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. So if I can summarize a little bit what Dr. Kim has shared with us. So Dr. Kim, you have visited 23 countries for the best year. So I hope that you should later on, if you have the opportunity, share with us which brand it is. And he talked about the nature of VUCA, that we should look on the skill formation system because it is important. This is a very important method to take care, and it will be least complex if we use the skill formation system. And we need to think on the majority of the system as well. We need to upgrade the system one at a time. So, and Dr. Kim also mentioned about encouraging the government policies that eventually will help all the implementer, and update the curriculum and be, how to say, brave enough to withdraw or remove some of the unnecessary program due to employability. So based on the market demand. And he also mentioned about to upgrade again, emphasize on upgrade the skill formation system. And the budget is also a very critical key, that the resources is very important for us to execute the programs, the curriculum, and so on. Then like Dr. Paryono mentioned, Dr. Kim also touched on the environment and the transparency and open-minded. And lastly, Dr. Kim also talked about we should have a smaller scale of research on the experiment. Okay, and last but not least, I'm a bit worried to hear to know that the portion of the Tibet is decreasing now. So I think that's all that I can summarize from what Dr. Kim has shared with us. So thank you very much to all the panelists for the first round, the question and answer. We have completed the first round. Now I think without further delay, we can move to the second round, question and answer session. So I'll go back to TS Muhammad Fadzil. So being industry ready will not only get you noticed and selected by the best corporate entities within the industry, but also would make them consider one favorably for a job that is prosperous and one acquired skill can be put to use in the most productive ways possible. So my question is, what preparation should TVET institution focus on to produce industry-ready graduates in VUCA world? Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Dr. T. So I would like to repeat the question. What preparation should TVET system focus on to produce industry-ready graduate in VUCA world? Correct, right? So for graduate, basically have to be all-rounded. So being a book smart does not guarantee success, nor does being highly skilled, you know, especially lack of professional social skill. So this is the first point. So basically, focus to produce an industry-ready graduate. Again, back to the question one, the gap that we need to fill up is basically from, I would say on my side, it's like more or less like a POC or pilot project. So again, understanding the whole life cycle of the industry is one of the key areas. That means understanding of the change reaction. So the product that we want to produce is basically the people or the leader who can understand the whole chain reaction. I'm sorry, my example is more specific to the product that I have and the industry that I have, which is basically property and engineering maintenance, basically looking at our role is more or less like public work department who provide infrastructure, building amenities, you know, for public, from the construction up to maintenance and operation and all that. I agree with previous speaker that there are a few programs that need to be upgraded one by one. However, looking at the COVID situation is actually the best opportunity in terms of timing to make changes on a few areas, you know, like the traditional program that we have. Yes, it is maybe outdated before COVID, but after COVID, even excellent program, a very successful program before COVID will probably cannot be sustained because of the changes on everything. I would say 360 changes, you know. So we cannot just give them a bait, you know. We need to give them a fishing rod, you know, fishing rod to ensure they continue survive every day. And of course, our ultimate target, we need to go big. One day they become leader, because in this industry, in every industry, we talk about in terms of management level, we have, I'm giving our theory example, 4 or 5. Number one, the beginning stage of them, definitely they will be focusing on operational level, you know, working on the side, you know, data entry, data gathering, and all that. Perhaps after a few years, 1 or 2 years, they will move into tactical level, like the field commandant, you know, commandant officer who give instruction to the operation guy. You have to increase this, bring down the anchor, lift up the anchor, and all that. It's the supervisory role or tactical. And then along the way, they have to think bigger, which is on the strategic level, in terms of direction to make it sustainable, in terms of there is so many reoccurring issue and challenges, or I would say problem, reoccurring that basically create hiccup to move forward, you know, always go backward, move forward, backward. So at the strategic level, they should be able, or they must be able to draw a policy or at least a guideline or a standard. So based on the previous incident, probably mapping into fishbone theory, what kind of root cause of this repetitive issues and challenges, incident, accident? Is it because of method wrong, because of the manpower or machinery, and so on and so forth? So having this, they will map out, or they will basically revise and upgrade or introduce new policy, new standard, new work instruction, new kind of form, directive, or even circular reminder, a bulletin, to the tactical and operational level. So to make it more efficient in terms of turnaround time, very industry-based turnaround time standard. In terms of accuracy, it means the product quality that they produce, you know, there is no repetitive, there is no sounds, another voice after the infrastructure amenities completed, you know. And of course, again, the topic in terms of when you talk about strategic level, these are the benchmarking, very important benchmarking they need to do. So we need to create a social skill to these people, to this student, or to this product from the beginning. They need to compare, you know, the balanced scorecard system we should introduce from the institution. What is the industry standard on the tier 1 level, tier 2 level, tier 3 level? So what is the statistic shows like in terms of the scoring that they have? We can set up a few criteria, a few hundred criteria, not just the core subject itself, also the social skill. You talk about the stakeholder participation or role as well. So it is very important to create the product that can understand the whole life cycle, so that they can understand the whole value chain or the change reaction. For example, they sit at position A or B, they can understand if they are not meeting certain standard, it will impact the C reaction. If you look at, for example, the portal value chain process. So they have to be very innovative, they have to be social skill, very agile, and of course, competency is a must, is a must. But competency is just not comfortable with what the book smart they are, you know, everyday change. In fact, with the current economic issue, not just sitting at the same position, maybe they have to move job to other company, something beyond their control, you know, company closed down, upgrading and all that, downsizing, upgrading. They have to move, they have to start at the position that they, so basically sometimes they don't like, but they need it, they need to survive, they have to continue. Slowly, overtaken by event, they will basically understand. Again, back to the ultimate, as per, I think all the speaker mentioned, engagement with the stakeholder, name it, the student or even the educators or institution, need to be done basically, in terms of time, we need to do it now, basically. So not just positioning position the student in industry. So the educators name it what level, educators, the lecturers, the management need to understand, if I can say this word, new book. Yeah, after COVID, a lot of new book produced, new procedure, new regulation, new pricing, you know, and we cannot avoid, like for example, in our case, people is very important in Felda population. I think above 2 million population, 114 houses. We have 317 settlers area, 11 region. So we also need to basically reading the news, reading their movement, what they like, what they don't like, you know, what they need. Because at the end user or the people is the one who have the say. So creating new product, creating product and leaders. So it has to be the current industry needs or requirement. So whatever we have before the COVID, I don't want to say very clear, very straightforward. Before the COVID, maybe some are outdated program, but even the very successful program also need to be revised after the pandemic, after the COVID-19. So with that, let's work together from industry, you know, from regulators, the end user, even looking at the world trend, like the example given by the speaker, the modern country now decreasing, you know, but developing country like us, maybe we can benchmark Germany 10, 15 years ago, Korea 10, 15 years ago when they in the developing stage. So the TVET is really, but I believe because I have direct experience with these people, I have two type of student, one from the pure, whatever engineering, property and all that. Another one is from the TVET program. It takes two to tango in our industry. We need two, we need both. We need TVET, we also need to have the theory and science people here in order for us to make it sustain. Because the TVET is the key words I like is the technology, because now everything is, you know, so under the TVET component, we have this technology, and of course, vocational is very important. So hands-on, not just theory. But like I said, we need both, the science and the TVET student. I think I have, do I have more time? I think finish, right? 11 o'clock.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, with that, again, thank you so much for the organizer, specifically to UTHM for inviting me. And of course, very good to know, it's a pleasure to know my colleague speaker. I hope we can have a good connection in future. Please do visit our website. We serve the public in terms of amenities property for people, and we need the whole change to be with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, TS Muhammad Fadzil. Based on the question is on what preparations should TVET institutions focus on to produce industry-ready graduates in VUCA world. If I can pick some of the main points that TS has shared with us. So TS mentioned that being a book smart does not guarantee success. I will totally agree with this, that professional social skills are critical needed. So how to fill up the gap? So he mentioned about there is a pilot project, understanding the whole cycle of the industry, understand the change of reaction. It's very important, and we are very glad to have very specific examples from TS just now. He also mentioned about upgrading programs to make changes, even though successful program nowadays it might be not sustained anymore. So changes are needed. So he also talked about 3 levels, that they are operational level, the tactical level, the strategic level. On the strategic level, he mentioned about the directions to make it sustainable and must be able to draw guideline or at least standard and we need to identify the root cause is also very important. So followed by create social skills from the beginning. Sorry. So he mentioned about balance score cut system and the industry standard as well. And we need to understand the whole life cycle, the whole value chain, then to make us agile. And even though competency is a must, but because it changed, we have how to say, but there are so many changes happens, right? So we need to cope with it. And also the engagement with the stakeholders. And lastly, on creating the current industry needs or requirement by creating new products. And he also mentioned about there are two types of students. They are mainly from the engineering side and the TVET. So both are needed for sustainability purpose. I think that's all that I can, summarize a little bit on the answers from TS. Very comprehensive answer. Now we move to the second question for Dr. Paryono. So academia and industry share a symbiotic relationship. So academia produces graduates who are absorbed by industry. So research work in universities are taken up by the industry and turned into products and services. So industry, on the other hand, looks to academia for solutions to their concerns. So the question is, how do TVET institutions apply strategic leadership in building a relationship with industry in VUCA world?
Thank you, Dr. T, for very interesting questions and also not that easy to answer. And we have our speaker from industry here, as Fadzil later on also can elaborate further. But this is from the view of more on the TVET maybe specialists as well as from TVET institutions. So this is my view. But before responding to this question, I'd like also to in a way also highlight, also further discuss or share the experience from Dr. Kim regarding the visit, regarding the enrollment of TVET in Germany that is decreasing. I think this is not surprising. Has been theory about relationship or research finding relationship between development of a country and the enrollment. The shapes of the relationship represented by the horseshoe. So it's like the upside down U. So normally when the country is still developing, the enrollment on TVET is very low. When the process of development, economic development is kind of in the middle, developing, progressing, normally the enrollment is quite high. Once reached the high level of development, enrollment become low again. So it is very normal because of the aspiration of the people. They would like, again, to reach as high education as possible because they can afford it. So at the end, they prefer to go to higher education. Regardless of whether at the end they get a job or not, that is a different matter. But the key here is that they would like to create options. They try to create opportunities. So I think that is again, it's not surprising, but it's good to have the evidence again that more developed countries the enrollment is decreasing. But one question that we need to look at here regarding when we talk about higher education. So far, we're talking about research universities, talking about teaching universities, but now a lot of universities, they call it as the applied universities, or you can call it as a TVET university. If the enrollment is in the applied universities, I think this is encouraging because this is also in line with the trend of digitalization that lower level of skills can be easily replaced by robots, by automation. But for the higher level, this is still needed. And in fact, the number of workforce at the middle and high level is increasing during the era of VUCA world, also in the era of digitalization. So this is something that we need to look at, whether the trend of decreasing enrollment from TVET side to university is just mainly on the different leveling or to the normal university or to the kind of academic university or research university, or is it to the applied? If this is to applied, I think that will respond very well and prepare the country very well, especially in the era of digitalization. So this is something that later on we can discuss further. I think for those working in TVET, it's very interesting to see whether TVET should lead or TVET should follow industry. And this is a lot of debate about this, and I think it's non-conclusive. And sometimes the general agreement is that the higher the level of TVET, we can provide kind of guidance, in fact, a little bit of leading the industry in terms of how to grow, come up with a new type of occupation or industry. But when we talk about lower level TVET, normally we follow what happened in industry. But this is again is something that we can continue debating in terms of what level our collaboration with industry, whether we just need to follow what happened there, or we should be able to lead, creating new occupation, creating new industry that maybe is not existing at this moment because we have the capacity to do so. Now, with regards to the questions from Dr. T, how do TVET institutions apply strategic leadership in building relationship with industry in VUCA world? Okay, TVET institutions and industry, the relationship is up and down. I think, as we know that in this region, TVET was initiated primarily by government. So you could see the relationship can be, we can see the industry, we view it as a partner, view it as what you call entities outside of the TVET itself. But when we look at the other part of the world, looking at the Germany, Switzerland, Austria, the TVET system or the TVET initiations started from industry. So industry believe or think that preparing skilled workforce is needed for them. So at that time, the participation from government is very limited because the industry feel like this is very important, and thus they need to create TVET centers, TVET institutions, so that at the end they can kind of work together and to prepare their future workforce. So this difference of history affect the way we view our industry as a partners. So when we talk about it, we always try to compare ourselves with the practice in European countries, whereby they could see that relationship there are quite strong because again, TVET was initiated by industry. While we are here, TVET initiated by government, and then we invite industry to collaborate. And so in a way, the relationship is something.
I believe that we are having some technical difficulty from Dr. Paryono's side. So please wait for a minute, see if Dr. Paryono can solve the technical issues or not. So while we are waiting for Dr. Paryono, maybe I can, recall a little bit what Dr. Paryono had mentioned just now. It's about the developed country will experiencing decrease of enrollment in TVET. That is very common. Okay, so the higher level of TVETs will lead the industry to produce or to create a new types of occupation. So also mentioned by Dr. Paryono just now, and followed by explaining the relationship is upside down. Okay, so industry are the parties that is outside of TVET in our places compared to European countries. Okay, and I think that's all I can cope as far as Dr. Paryono has mentioned just now. So I believe that Dr. Paryono is doing his best to get back to us, but without delay our forum, I think it's good that we can proceed this forum to the following question because Dr. Kim is with us. And Dr. Kim, is it okay that we proceed with your question first while we're waiting for Dr. Paryono?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. So
okay, thank you.
Also VUCA, right? So we're having this using all these internet, all the technologies. Okay. So Dr. Kim, the question for you is, VUCA creates an understanding about how a business got to its current state and what the consequences for its actions may be. Okay, it also aids in understanding challenges being faced and opportunities presented, So for leaders, VUCA means being more agile. That's agile has been mentioned many times in our discussion, our question and answer, or flexible in the face of change. Could you elaborate the key impacts of VUCA affecting TVET?
Okay, thank you for your question. Okay, first thing I want to mention about the importance of learning network. As I mentioned, we need to small experiment to think about the future and the preparations. Those are small experiment is not enough to cover, but when you have a network, when we sharing their experiment result together, we can predict or we can be ready for the future. So now I'm working with the 23 country learning network, EAS TVET network. And then we have a lot of the opportunity to share what we have learned from our experience and experiment. This is very important because most of the developing country and the Korea, same, we do not have enough reference. We do not have the knowledge or the data. Thus, we are developing our future. we are working on it. Thus, when we share more data and then experience and the knowledge together, yeah, we can reduce the waste of our precious resources, and then we can make better way to make a decision. And there's now, and then we need to think about the non-formal and informal learning. Right now, the TVET Institute cannot cover all the skill development. For example, in Korea, artificial intelligence is very key the TVET interest. But actually, no TVET Institute can provide AI program. But they need the AI skill. So how they learn the AI from that is a non-formal and informal. For example, we have a learning community. It's branded the offline and online, and they have a very good teaching and learning together at the Zoom and then some cafe meeting. And then most of the major city in Korea, they have a same community. And then some leader, not the leader, one of the participants who has some experience, and he or she share his experience and knowledge with their colleague. This is very effective. This is very effective in cutting edge technology learning community. And then in TVET Institute, they need to be a lifelong learning institute. Up to now, we are more focusing on entry-level skill development. Thus, we are more we try to have teach the student before the job experience. Most of the TVET Institute maybe in Korea same, but right now we need to more focusing on reskilling and upskilling. When I have a task analysis of in Korea office worker, right now their position and their job exactly the same, but their task is quite changing now. For example, they are taking reskilling and unskilling program, upskilling program. For example, data analysis and algorithm development and big data, because their task is changing. Because without this kind of new skill, they cannot survive. Thus, office worker is their main job and task is changing very fast way. For example, the medical doctor in Korea, they using AI assistant. Not just the IBM, but also many Korean the startup, they providing AI assistant doctors, medical assistants. Thus, without this kind of the technology skill, they cannot use it. Thus, medical doctor, they have to learn this kind of analysis tools and the medical things. And then this is that's why we need more focusing on reskilling and upskilling. That is more, and then okay, and then in terms of the policy, we need to avoid fad and fashion mode. There are so many things going on and going out. Thus, if we more focusing on this kind of fad and fashion, very difficult to manage. But when you look at the skill formation system, it's very consistent. Very consistent. Yeah, sometimes fad and fashion is important to motivate the policymaker and the others. But sometimes too much fad and fashion mode is not good. And then in this case, we need to have data-based thinking, data-based policy making. In this regard, MyRIVET is very important. Many Tibet policymakers, they make a decision without any evidence, without any data-based. I think that Dr. Kiong understands these things. Yeah, there's a skill policy and is very sensitive and very important. But without the data-based evidence-based the decision making is not good. Thus, I think MyRIVET should be very strong and should provide more data. Otherwise, the Malaysia will waste resources in this regard, I think. And then in this regard, we need to understand the nature of the Tibet. The Tibet is very expensive education. When we compare all the budget for Tibet, the same student and same age, Tibet need 3 or 4 times bigger budget compared to the general education. That's why Tibet is very difficult to have enough budget. Those are under budget. They do not have not enough resource. That is the biggest reason. Thus, Tibet is expensive. Then means Tibet need to be the main engine of national economic and social development in developing country. Otherwise, it's very difficult to have enough budget. Thus, that's why we need to make it very effective Tibet. Then we can get more. Thus, when the policymaker and then the politician or statement recognize Tibet as a main engine of national economic and social development, Tibet will get more budget. But this is very difficult anyway. And then, as I said, mentions resource-based thinking is important. There's most of the developing country, not just Malaysia, but many different countries, they have too big, not effective Tibet institute. For example, the other country in ASEAN, more than 50% they're in the vocational education institute. But after the graduation, only 10% of them, they using their learned skill in their practice. 90%, they do not use their skill, have learned, because the skill is not appropriate, outdated. In this case, I have some story as I compare the diesel engine and gas turbine. Yeah, the gas turbine is much more advanced technology. And then when we operate the gas turbine, we can generate several million of horsepower. But diesel engine, I think I can generate only up to 500 horsepower. But when you have big enough resource, gas turbine is much better because you can generate millions of the horsepower. But if you do not have enough gas energy to operate gas turbine, diesel engine is much better. Because the gas turbine cannot operate with a small amount of the energy. So we need to make operative our Tibet system. And in that case, we need to have more resource-based way of thinking. And And then in this case, I'd like to suggest make some how can I say excellent example of Tibet. For example, in Malaysia, there are so many community colleges, but when you choose only 5% or 10% of community college, and then provide enough resource, and then upgrade the teacher capacity and curriculum, and altogether, maybe after 3 years, maybe that selected community college will be a leader of the community college. Then the other 95% will follow the leaders. Then after 5 years later, I think the quality of education in Tibet in community college will upgrade it. We have same experience in Korea, the MySo school program. We have selected only 10%. We have 600, but MySo school only 50. And selected, and then we upgrade it, and then they have more autonomy. They can change the curriculum. Autonomy is very important. Without autonomy, they cannot be fast mover or cannot be agile. Thus, they have full autonomy of their curriculum and school management. After 3 or 5 years later, they can be a leader of the vocational education in Korea. And then they have a match with a big company, Samsung and Hyundai. Thus, after graduation, over 90% of the graduate can work at the Samsung and Hyundai, and then without any salary gap with the university graduate. Then some Korean believe, oh, vocational school is better than university because they studied at the vocational school, and then they have as much as salary as the university graduate. It's to be selected as for Samsung is very competitive. Maybe one 100 or 300 university graduates applied, and then only 1 or 2 selected in Samsung. But in MySo school, 95% can be selected and can be work for Samsung. In that case, the mindset is changing. There's a stigma attached to vocational education removing fast, slowly. Does I want to say about more resource-based thinking, and then avoid the fashion and fad mode, more focusing on the strong skill formation system construction and upgrading. And if I have chance, I want to have more interactive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. So if I can summarize the answers from Dr. Kim on the key impacts of VUCA. So he mentioned about networking. We can see that networking, again, is a very critical key for us to hold on. And the problem we have now is we do not have enough knowledge and data. And the sharing data and experience can make us make better decisions. So he also talked about the non-formal and informal education, because the TVET education in the formal system is not able to cover all. And he gave an example on artificial intelligence. So you also talk about lifelong learning, because it's a never-ending story, right? We need to learn as long as we are still living. So that's why we have the reskilling and upskilling in TVET, to be more specific, to make sure that we are up to date, we are relevant, and we are able to survive. And he also talked about the database policy thinking. Make sure that the policy is made based on data. Okay, and TVET needs bigger budget compared to general education. I think we all will agree on this. And 90% do not use the skill learned in the system because it's not relevant. And Dr. Kim also gave a very specific example on the gas engine. I believe that is very good for us to understand. And lastly, he mentioned about one very specific example in Malaysia. So Dr. Kim is very close to Malaysia, the community college. So he proposed that we should upgrade the facilities, the curriculum, the educators' skills, and so on, by only focusing on, for example, like 5% for about 3 years. So definitely the whole system will be very excellent, and the remaining 95% will follow later. So he also shared with us a success story, the Meister School from Korea. So perhaps we could benchmark this Meister School from Korea later. So I believe that's all that I can share with what Dr. Kim has answered. So I believe that Dr. Paryono is back with us. I'm so sorry, Dr. Paryono, that you faced the technical difficulty just now. So Dr. Paryono, is it okay that we continue with your answer for your question?
Yes, and apologies again. I do not know. I thought I was continue talking and it's still there, but it got disconnected. So where was I? Was that I haven't studied?
You mentioned, okay, let me recall a little bit. So you mentioned about the relationship is up and down on the industry or the parties that is outside of the TVET. You gave examples that the European country, they have the industry believe that prepared workforce is needed for them, but vice versa in our case. Then you talk about the company TVET initiated by, let me see, TVET. I think that's all. So perhaps you can continue the answer from there. Thank you, Dr. Paryono.
Thank you very much. Again, apologies. So let me just continue. I think after I share regarding the horseshoe shape of relationship between economic development as well as enrollment in TVET, and also try to highlight in terms of the importance of promoting or proposing applied universities, because I think that is needed by the industry now, the era of digitalizations, whereby they need higher level of TVET. So if we offer at the secondary, maybe that's not sufficient now. We need to offer at the higher level, including at the university. I think that is very good because that's what we need in the future. And then I mentioned a little bit about the history. I think I just wrap up quickly that the history of TVET in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland is more coming from industry, while from Southeast Asia is coming from the government. So because of this, the relationship between TVET institution and industries are different. I think here we view industry a bit of a partner or even outsider sometimes, while in Germany they are the core, the player, the main player of TVET. So I think considering this, we need to be able to shift the position of industry to play more important or crucial roles, so that they're not only partner, but this is also one of the basically also providers of TVET institutions. How to collaborate with them? This is the next answer that I'd like to share with everyone. In this region, we have different level of TVET collaborations. From the very low one, normally we're talking about industry phases, or maybe a lecturer coming from industry, to be a little bit more maybe significant, for example, like having industrial attachment by students, or having apprenticeship program, or even better if you can go to the next level, having the dual system whereby teaching and learning happening in the school, but also in the industry. But I know the challenges, as Dr. K mentioned, that number of students in this region is huge. You know, the enrollment is very high. So it's very hard for the industry to absorb for attachment, let alone for working, for employment later on. So this is, again, the mapping of talking about the LMIS, Labor Market Information System, so that the TVET institution should be able to correspond accordingly. This is, I think, still lacking. And we just had research also led by KRIVET on the LMIS for the ASEAN member states. And that is the weaknesses that we have, lacking of LMIS. And I think this is also important for us in terms of mapping how many for certain programs that we need to produce, so that at the end we not oversupply the students or the graduates. So if we can in a way move the level of collaboration between school and industry from very lower level to the middle, and even better to the higher level, or the top one, which is dual system or workplace training, that a majority of the training can happen in the industry. That is excellent. But we know the limitations. One of the strategies, this is I'd like to share from Indonesia, they call it teaching factory. Teaching factory, we create environment similar to industry, but not outside of the school, but within the school. So instead of sending the student to industry because of limited industries available, we ask industry to build a process, industry process in the school levels, that at the end the student have the experience. But of course, this is not perfect, but it's better than not having experience at all. And this is also a way of what you call it, the strategy. So instead of just collaborating with them by sending our student to industry, we can also invite industry to come to school and build a kind of process, kind of industry process that the student can learn. And they can also produce something, like in Indonesia, they produce laptops, motorbikes, even car, just for learning. By contribution of industry, bringing the equipment, expertise to the school, then the student can. So these are a few things that I'm imagining we can share on that. So continue assessing and also improving the level of collaboration is very important. And also identify the activities that benefit both sides. I don't know whether earlier I have mentioned this about Nanyang Polytechnic comparing to ITE. Nanyang Polytechnic is already higher level, they're producing diploma level, while ITE is producing certificate. Yeah? So in terms of collaboration with industry, there's a different way of collaborating. For the lower level, maybe teachers should be more active because teachers can contribute to industry. Well, students maybe can be there for learning, but in terms of contributions, maybe not really felt by industry because of the limited capacity or competency that they have. But at the higher level, polytechnic level, they should be able to. For example, like they have, they call it also teaching factory, but what they do is that they selected real problem from industry, then brought to the school, addressed and solved by the last year students and the lecturer. So at the end, they give the solution to industry, but the patent held by the school, by the institution. So I think this is also another innovative way. How can we make our collaboration more meaningful to industry? So not only just asking, but also we need to give. So I think that is the way we give is our expertise. Expertise can come from the teachers, lecturers, also can come from the students, depending on the level of the students. I mentioned earlier, I don't know whether I have shared this, regarding whether TVET institution should follow or we should lead industry. This is also ongoing debate because at this moment, a lot of TVET institutions, we just follow what happened in industry because we don't have enough expertise to provide that assistance. We don't have the expertise to create new industry, to generate economy so that at the end create employment. But we just follow what happens. So this is again for TVET at the higher level. This I think can be very useful if we can also think in terms of helping the government. How can we project the future of the employment, not only just depending on the existing industry, but also forecasting whatever the future of the industry that we can create with together with industry or together with the government. So that's, I think, also improving the capacity that TVET is not only few as the followers, but also we can lead. And this is the way we can also strengthen the collaboration with industry by having that kind of mindset for the TVET stakeholders. We need to also be able to lead, especially those at the higher level. But at the lower level, I think it's fine that we need to follow what's happening in industry. So that means that's my additional, Dr. T, and again, apologies for the disconnection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paryono. So let me summarize a little bit the answers from Dr. Paryono. He mentioned about that industry play more critical role. So the collaboration is very critical, that we might have industry attachment, the apprenticeship, the dual system that focus on the workplace training, that we have the dual system involve the school and the industry, that we check but the challenge is the total number of the students. So you mentioned also about the LMIS is still lacking. That mapping is very important, so we do not oversupply. So Dr. Paryono also mentioned about the teaching factory, that as one example from Indonesia, that creating an environment that is similar to industry but in the school. And continued assessing is also critical, that identify the activities that can benefit both parties. This one we want to have a mutual, symbiotic, right? So example, like he also gave an example, the Nanyang Polytechnic. So the teacher should be more active, okay, and TVET follows. And lastly, TVET should follow or lead industry. So I think this is a very important question that we should all think on together. So I think we have completed the round 2 question and answer. So now we have moved to the question and answer session from the participants. So if I can read some of the questions that I received directly. So the first question I received directly from the participants is, let me read the question. So VUCA creates an understanding about how business got into its current state and what the consequences of its action may be. So the question is how VUCA is affecting the organization or industry. So let me repeat the question. How VUCA is affecting the organization or industry. Perhaps I will pass this question to our first panelist, TS Muhammad Fadzil. If you may try to give us some input on this question.
I'm sorry, can you repeat again the question?
Sure, can, TS. So the question is how VUCA is affecting the organization or industry.
Thank you. I take it very positive about VUCA because it happens even not now. Even in modern country, they face this VUCA, I think not now, maybe far advanced than us. So taking it positive affect the industries. Basically, it's a change management, basically. Change management based on the, like I said, the simple example I give is the in strategic theory, like for example, the simple example that the PESTEL, political change, economic, social, technology, environment, legal, is more or less like VUCA, putting changes or putting positive change to us. Take it positive. Change is actually for betterment, for improvement. For example, efficiencies and all that. To keep it relevant. That's my general answer for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, TS Muhammad Fadzil. We have received, I think, another 2 questions. So perhaps one for Dr. Paryono and another one for Dr. Kim later. So to Dr. Paryono, I believe this question is related to the recent research that we do together. So you mentioned about IR 4.0. So what is the role of IR 4.0 in the VUCA world? So if I can repeat the question, what is the role of IR 4.0 in the VUCA world?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I think this is related to the research that we are doing at this moment. So what is the role of IR 4.0 in the VUCA world? And as you can see, this is interconnected. VUCA world happens and also exacerbated because of also digitalization. So Industry 4.0 in a way make the situations become faster and more complex and more uncertain in a way. So that's why we need to do this research, so that we like to see and examine how ready we are in respond to this development, to these changes. So how this contribute, again, the more technology, the more digitalization being introduced or being integrated in the systems, I think the VUCA world becomes, it's already occurring, but become faster. In terms of the speed, I think become faster. So that is the relationship. I think I'm imagining it's positive correlation between the speed of IR 4.0 adoption and the VUCA level in the environment that we are facing. So I think that is my general, because it is interconnected, and of course we cannot separate these two because it's kind of intermingled, that these two are connecting in positive direction. That is my general response. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paryono. So we move to the following question. Just now we mentioned about educators, but now the following question for Dr. Kim is, how can TVET students survive in a VUCA world? So now it's from the perspective of a student. So the virtual floor is yours, Dr. Kim.
Actually, for student perspective, I want to talk a little about the Tibet Institute, and I'm going to the student perspective. Actually, we need to think about the quality of the Tibet education, because one of the main subjects we discuss about the skill gap, old skill or new skill or that things. We have two perspectives of the skill gap. First, skill gap is a kind of skill or sector. But I think as more important perspective is a quality. Even though they have the sector or kind of skill is correct, but skill, the quality of skill is if quality of skill is not enough, yeah, this is another skill gap. It's especially the new technology. And yeah, I want to share some story in Korea. There are some university or Tibet Institute, they open new technology program, AI or the big data or this kind of new cutting edge program, but they do not have a good staff or teachers. Thus, their quality is not enough to meet the industrial need. In this case, it's very difficult to get over. In this case, we need to think more about the quality, not the quantity, or just a direction. But also, okay, I'm going back to the questions. For the student in Tibet Institute, they need to more focusing on basic skills, soft skills, more in general. For example, communication, and then the basic skill and numeracy or the way of the logical way of thinking, and then language skill, and then some basic digital skills is very important, because the specific of the firm specific skill is changing. But when they have a strong or solid foundation skill, they can adjust, they can adapt to the new environment. Thus, at the same time, to have a good job, they need to more focusing on the specific skill. But in general, they need more focusing on basic competency and basic. And then right now, when I have an interview with the HR person of the big company in Korea, what is most important thing to hire new staff? They said attitude or character, good character or positive attitude, most important they are looking for. Thus, this is very fundamental questions. Thus, they need the student. They need more focusing on the basic and the fundamental skill and competency, and then they need to be more positive, and they need to develop more good characteristic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for your answer. I believe that we are receiving another question specifically to Dr. Paryono. Let me read the question. The question is how to remain and be resilient in the VUCA world. So asked by our participants, Muhammad Nur Shufa'at. So how to remain and be resilient in the VUCA world. So to you, Dr. Paryono.
Thank you very much for the questions, Muhammad Nur Shufa'at. Again, simple question, but not easy to answer because there's a lot of changes of attitude. I think Dr. Kim mentioned regarding the attitudes, the character, in terms of the open-mindedness. And sometimes in this region, I think we have the culture of acceptance, and this culture is good in a way if we are followers, but if we want to be leaders in the future, this culture of acceptance is not good enough. We need to be able to innovate. So in a way, we need to be able to go to different directions. So need to be some, doesn't mean that we break the rules, but we need to think differently and to be open-minded. And this is, again, it's not easy to say, but not easy to do, because this one need a lot of process. This should be part of our daily habit that we need to accustom ourselves in terms of how to think critically, how can we respect others, how can we have a thirst of searching for knowledge. This should be, because sometimes we kind of complacent. Our lifestyle is, we kind of relax, which is also good sometimes. We feel relaxed, enjoy our life. But also we need to balance ourselves that, we need to continue growing ourselves, growing personally, as well as also growing professionally. And so in this case, continuous learning, learn how to learn, I think is important. And this even better as well if the system, I think in Malaysia, is quite good in terms of the recognition of prior learning, so that learning from wherever we are, whether this is from formal, non-formal, informal, can be recognized and also will also influence or affect our career in the future. So I think if we have this opportunity, the system is ready, then now we just need to ask ourselves, how can we be resilient? So by having the open-mindedness, I think that's key that I keep saying. In the Western world, they call it grit, but grit is not, you cannot teach grit. Grit is basically kind of determination that we need to continue growing. We need to accomplish better. This grit normally also, we need to be created by the environment. So maybe also there's something that we need to create environment that all of these good characters can grow, not through teaching, because if this being taught, this is only touching the knowledge, but not the behavior. But all of this good thing in terms of being open-mindedness also need to be stimulated with the environment, with the good examples, role modeling. I think also another example of visits to certain place that can inspire us, that can change the way we view this. So I think that's just few things in terms of the transferable skills, the soft skills, the 21st century skills. Those are, again, very, very crucial at this moment in order for us to be resilient. The specific, we can polish it later when we go to work. As long as we have already the strong foundations and some basic of the competencies, later on this one we can sharpen in industry. But if we prepare to specific in the school, later on we have problem of adjusting because, and also maybe the needs of industry may change. So if we prepare to specific, then at the end is irrelevant when we ready graduate. So that's, I think, please continue striving for the best, for the higher level of competencies, and be having a thirst of searching new knowledge, never ending, and please enjoy that. Because if we don't enjoy, as mentioned by Dr. T earlier, that we need to love the journey, and the journey of searching new information, new knowledge, new competencies is important. So I think that's a key back to the main question that you asked me, Dr. T, earlier. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paryono. I believe that, I agree with you, a very common question, but you have given us a very specific answer. Really appreciate it. So now we have another question for TS Muhammad Fadzil. Let me read the question. How to achieve goals and overcome challenges towards success in this VUCA world? So the question is, how to achieve goals and overcome challenges towards success in this VUCA world? To you, TS Fadzil.
Thank you very much. Very good question. It is quite challenging to answer as well. I think we have to work again, the value chain, work backwards. The goal, and the demand, the requirement by the stakeholder is the benchmarking, is basically the goal that we need to achieve. And then from there, we work backwards in terms of, like I said, the product, the educators, that. Prior to the product, of course, we have, like I said, we are very lucky having opportunity to get involved in educate these people, the student, the 24 work-based learning student, 1 year with us. and we also have the opportunity to go through the program. And we are basically facing the day-to-day challenge. We can identify the strengths and weaknesses of the product or the student. From there, we have to, basically the industry, our industry or our company now, will be sitting together with institution to map out the gap. That means we have to do gap analysis, and from there we need to do the revision, upgrading, or improve, or maybe certain thing to remove from the program in order for us to achieve the goal. So in terms of stakeholder, we can split into two. Maybe institution or university can tackle a few, one or two, three. We are basically hands-on with the industry. We also have very close relationship with other type stakeholder. So engagement session need to be done for us to map out the gap, and we come up with a plan, the big program to fill up the gap, and producing new program. However, the existing one is excellent. We still can continue, but it's just minor upgrading, amendment, improvement to be done concurrently with the next program. That's my answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, TS Muhammad Fadzil. So you mentioned about the gap analysis. You can see to fill up the gap is not that easy. So the partnership between the institution and the industry, the engagement is important for us to have to fill up the gap. So now I will read one response from the participants. That is Dr. Aisha Muhammad Rehan to Dr. Kim. So she says that, thank you, Dr. Kim Young, for your suggestions on improving the TVET education, sufficient funds, increased autonomy, mindset change on vocational training, and the rest. So thank you so much, Dr. Aisha, for your comments to Dr. Kim. So I believe that we have come to the end of our forum. So let me summarize a little bit with a question and answer. Why is leadership important in VUCA world? Strong leadership is not only helps individuals understand change, but also positions them to embrace it and to thrive in an ever evolving work environment. By taking clear steps to communicate and support employees through change, leaders can guide the organization to success in the times of VUCA. So ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the end of the sharing session, and allow me to express my warmest thanks to TS Muhammad Fadzil, Dr. Paryono, Dr. Kim, and all members of your kind participation. Such a great sharing from all the panelists. We hope that we will have more collaboration in the near future. And back to our chairperson. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you to our moderator, Associate Professor Technology, Dr. TZ Kiong, and thank you to all the speakers of the forums, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for the kind participant, for your support of this forum. On behalf of the university, thank you for coming here today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the end of the welcome ceremony, keynote and forum sessions. On behalf of all of the committee members, we'd like to express our utmost gratitude to all the distinguished guests, members of floor for joining this conference. Thank you so much, and please forgive us for our shortcomings. We'd like to invite to all the proceed to the paper presentation in the next session. The session will start at 1:45 p.m. and the link has been given in the chat box. For any inquiries, please refer to the moderator on the paper presentation session. And with that, I ended the session with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Kita buat, okay, for the